2 years ago, the world lost a man officially recognized by the Guinness Book of Records as the dirtiest on earth. Iranian Amou Haji lived for 94 years and passed away shortly after deciding to bathe in a river for the first time in 60 years. The figures mentioned below were aware of hygiene and could even afford regular bathing. However, they went down in history not only for their achievements, but also for their disregard for cleanliness. The famous artist Salvador Dali could easily symbolize creative madness. He bathed rarely, believing that the scent of his body inspired creativity. Dali viewed hygiene as a bourgeois excess and even used his sweat as an element of his naturalness, which often shocked his contemporaries. Writer Erich Maria Remarque, known for his novels, lived in complete creative freedom, which extended to his appearance. Contemporaries mentioned that Remarque rarely bathed, as he was immersed in his writing. His apartment resembled utter chaos, with dirty clothes and books scattered everywhere. The smell emanating from the writer was so distinctive that his acquaintances nicknamed him Fragrant Eric. Mao Zedong was notorious for his dislike of baths. He considered it a waste of time and limited his hygiene to wiping his body with damp cloths. Mao also never brushed his teeth, claiming, "Tigers don't use toothbrushes, but they have sharp teeth." By the end of his life, his odor became so unbearable that even his closest associates struggled to be near him. In Beethoven's time, running water, hot baths, and proper plumbing were already available. However, the great composer refused to bathe due to a fear of poisoning. He believed that lead pipes could transmit toxins into the water. As a result, he avoided bathing, opting instead to pour cold well water over his head. His friends would sometimes sneak into his house to wash his clothes while he slept. Beethoven remained committed to his anti-hygiene rituals. Friedrich Nietzsche, known for his revolutionary ideas, also deserves a spot on this aromatic list. His approach to hygiene was, to put it mildly, questionable. Nietzsche was so consumed by work that he often neglected basic tasks like bathing. His hair and beard were always tangled and greasy, and his clothes emitted an unpleasant odor. His fondness for tobacco only worsened the situation. Contemporaries noted that Nietzsche exuded a memorable scent that was difficult to endure. French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte was renowned for his passion for Josephine, but not for cleanliness. Letters from Napoleon to his wife reveal that he asked her not to bathe before their meetings to preserve her natural scent. The emperor himself paid little attention to hygiene, especially during military campaigns. His soldiers often complained about the stench emanating from his tent. Beloved by the French, King Henry IV was famed not only for his reforms, but also for his highly controversial attitude toward personal hygiene. Even compared to other monarchs, his odor was legendary. A court poet wrote, "Henry IV is found by his scent before being seen." His wives complained about being unable to endure his proximity, and his second wife, Maria de' Medici, resorted to bathing in perfume to cope with the smell. Charles VI, known as Charles the Mad, was a king of France and a tragic figure of his era. Until the age of 24, he was a typical ruler, but illness caused him to display signs of insanity. He believed he was made of glass and feared his own wife. Charles refused to bathe or change his clothes, becoming infested with lice and even urinating in his garments. To compel him to bathe, his servants dressed as demons and frightened him with hellfire, which temporarily worked. The legendary conqueror Genghis Khan and his army were notorious not only for their military prowess, but also for their intimidating odor. Mongolian warriors rarely bathed, as water was considered sacred. Their bodies exuded a mix of sweat, dust, and the smell of the animals they rode. This aura was often mentioned by enemies as an additional weapon that instilled fear. Karl Marx, the creator of communist theory, neglected personal hygiene. A Prussian agent noted that he rarely bathed, was slovenly, and drank excessively. Marx suffered from boils, which he even squeezed onto his manuscripts. His love of garlic and salted fish, combined with his habit of not brushing his teeth, worsened his condition. However, the philosopher called these boils a truly proletarian disease. Howard Hughes was less a slob and more a victim of his phobias. His obsessive fear of germs led him to require his servants to wash their hands meticulously and wrap items intended for him in multiple layers of tissue. However, Hughes himself avoided bathing and cutting his hair, claiming it preserved his natural antibacterial shield. In his later years, he ceased all grooming, becoming a complete recluse. Russian writer Leo Tolstoy, whose novels had a profound impact on world literature, also appears on this list. In his later years, he embraced ideas of simplicity and rejected excess, which affected his hygiene practices. Tolstoy rarely used soap, considered frequent washing a luxury, and believed that the soul should be cleaner than the body. Close ones often complained about his strong odor, joking that he could scare off the devil himself. Roman Emperor Nero, known for his eccentricities, was far removed from modern hygiene standards. Although Roman baths were popular among the elite, Nero often used them not for cleanliness, but for entertainment. He avoided frequent bathing, claiming it was a weakness unworthy of a ruler. His habit of wearing the same dirty toga for weeks and refusing to replace his shoes drew complaints from even his closest courtiers. The emperor's stench became so infamous that it was recorded in contemporary accounts. Jean-Paul Sartre, the renowned French existentialist, was not only a master of words, but also a master of ignoring personal hygiene. He considered paying attention to one's body a bourgeois luxury unworthy of a true philosopher. Sartre often wore dirty clothes, avoided bathing, and showed little regard for his appearance. Contemporaries described his odor as heavy and persistent, but Sartre remained indifferent, preferring to discuss philosophical matters over attending to cleanliness. French King Philip II Augustus rarely paid attention to hygiene. So immersed was he in political and military affairs that he completely neglected his body. Historians claim even his bed linens were rarely changed, and the king's odor could be detected from several meters away. His courtiers often avoided close interactions to escape the discomfort. Danish King Christian VII suffered from mental illness and almost completely ignored hygiene. His entourage frequently complained about the odor emanating from the monarch, whose habit of wearing the same clothes for weeks worsened the situation. Nevertheless, Christian believed he surpassed his contemporaries in refinement. These individuals, with their aromas, left as vivid a mark on history as their deeds. It seems that sometimes great minds and powerful rulers simply had no time for hygiene. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to ensure you don't miss future editions.